All right, everybody, a good evening to you. It's just before the top of the hour here. It is just about 7 o'clock on this January 24th, 2023. I'm forecaster Nick Dunn along with meteorologist Mike Joyce, and we will have forecaster Owen Fritsch joining us here in just a moment. So I'll give everybody just a few minutes here to tune in. Share this around with your friends and family. Got a lot to talk about this evening, including a boom or bust forecast in some locations. Talking about some heavy, wet snow in some areas as well, and the threat of just some cold rain, and even the threat of maybe a little sleet mixed in there too. And boy, Mike, kind of like we talked about last night, we just another complex forecast that we just don't get any easy ones ever.
No, it doesn't seem like it. And even though Sunday overproduced for us, we thought that one would be a little bit on the easier side, and then the impacts kind of piled up very quickly. I think many of you folks that are watching have probably seen snowfall maps from other sources or just by word of mouth. And you may have heard some different things and even some general shifts in the forecast, even with today's data. I think one thing we need to start off with is that no matter what, the impact is going to be high for tomorrow morning's commute. Whether we have 2 inches or 4 inches, 2 inches plus freezing rain, sleet mixing in, it's all happening between about, well, give or take, depending on where you are in the area, as early as 1 a.m. for our southwestern viewers to the middle of the night and right smack dab in the morning commute for pretty much everyone. So regardless of it, whether it's sleet, freezing rain, or snow where you are, there's a high likelihood that tomorrow morning's commute will be rather difficult. And if you're on the western end of things, snow is going to be your trouble. And then right in the middle, I-71 corridor, that's right along that line where we could either see some significant snowfall, then some sleet, freezing rain, and then rain, or any combination of all of that. So, Nick, I think, we've got a doozy on our hands. It's tough when you want to verify a snowfall forecast, but it's also where we have high confidence in just how impactful it'll be.
Yeah, and that's the difficult part to this. And, there's a famous, or I don't want to say famous, but there's a pretty good meme going around. It's a picture from up above. You got snow on the left side and nothing on the right side. And one side says, well, this is more than I expected. And the other side says, well, the snow always missed us. I guarantee some of you are going to feel that way tomorrow. And we wish we could give it to you easy, but unfortunately, it's just a very difficult forecast for us once again. So real quick, let's go into some headlines just to kind of recap for us. We are expecting snow to move in as we get into the overnight hours for tonight. And really, I'm starting to think now it's likely going to be after midnight for most, if not everybody at this point in time, starting closest to the Cincinnati area first and then working northeast. Some of us are set to have some heavy snow on Wednesday morning and then a wintry mix and rain transition for some. Some of us are going to stay all snow. Very complex forecast. We're going to try to give you some exact details here shortly. And there is going to be, unfortunately, some lower confidence in some of the amounts and locations still to this particular point in time. And let me get Owen added in here. That's what that notification was on the back side there. And forecaster Owen Fritsch as well here is
there is going to be, unfortunately, some.
There we go. I'll have to turn that off. Owen, you're echoing there in the background. So that's kind of where our headlines currently stand at this point in time. Again, we kind of have some lower confidence on some other things, and we'll try to pinpoint some of that for you so we can continue to move along. Now, let's move into our next round of snowfall forecast. We've been debating this, all day long. I know I have with some other members of our team. And you're still a little echoey there in the background. Not sure what's going on your side there, but currently kind of checking in on some of our snowfall forecasts. And Mike, I still think there's some pretty good confidence in Northwest Ohio, Northeast Indiana, 5 to 8, maybe even 5 to 9 inches in some locations. And before I let Mike talk again, Owen, you are still very echoey. I'm not even going to be able to let Mike talk at this point in time. So I'm not sure if you can hear me or not. Owen, can you hear me? No. Owen, I'm not sure what's going on, but you are completely echoey. There you go. That sounds much better. So, Mike, still Northwest Ohio, Northeast Indiana, our highest confidence, and likely we'll see all snow as well.
That is one of the situations here where the low is essentially tracking pretty much right across diagonally the state of Ohio. So on the northwest and western fringe of that, we're not going to really see as much warm air access. So that's why we're going to see those higher totals there, where it'll likely stay all snow. And if it does transition over, it would be rather brief. Even higher totals once you get farther west into Indiana. I think it's going to be pretty rough over there. And we've been kind of keeping an eye on our folks in Indianapolis as well. But for the core of Ohio, the three C's up I-71, where a lot of folks live, it's going to be very tricky. I do like that 2 to 4 map because I do have high confidence in heavy snow overnight, especially for Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, places in between, Mansfield, Marion, Bell Fountain, Dayton. We will have at least an hour to maybe up to 4 or 5 hours where we get an inch of wet snow per hour, and a lot of moisture in this. And then it appears that once we get an hour or two after sunset, we'll start to notice a little warm air above our heads. It won't necessarily be warming much above freezing here at the surface, but we'll get a little bit of warm air above our heads before we see a surge of warm air, especially in southeast and east of I-71 as we go throughout the afternoon. And for a while, we could have a few hours of rain before sunset tomorrow, and then we transition back over to what could be an additional fluff of snow to maybe up to an inch heading into Thursday. So this winter weather event won't necessarily end on Wednesday. The most severe impacts will be in the morning. I know a lot of folks out there are wondering, will my kids have a snow day? Will I have to call off work tomorrow? If you're commuting between 6 and 9 a.m., that may very well be the case. It is going to be a rough commute, no matter if you're currently seeing freezing rain, some heavy snow where visibility will be reduced, and just a lot of slick spots all over. And Nick, one more thing I just want to comment on really quickly. Just make sure that you have patience with the road crews and understand that
Absolutely.
not every road is going to be cleared right away. We know ODOT is going to be out in full force. And one thing I do want to note about ODOT is they only control the interstates and the state routes. So they are not responsible for roads within municipalities, usually, unless it's a state route or a special exception to that. So most smaller non-state route roads are going to be covered by whatever municipality you live in, whether it's a city, township, a village, that sort of thing. So I do think we're going to see some wild variation in snow removal based on crew availability, based on who's responsible for it, and based on what precipitation is happening. So I know it's hard to be patient in these types of situations. We all have places to be and places to go. Not all of us can take off work tomorrow. I understand. But know that we are trying, and our friends, our local road crew friends are certainly trying.
Yeah, they are. And real quick before I turn it over to Owen, those of you watching, especially down to the Middle Ohio Valley, I feel pretty good for the most part regarding your snowfall totals. Zanesville and Logan and points north and west is where we're likely to see the accumulating snow. You get to the Ohio River and especially West Virginia, you're going to be lucky to get an inch, if that. Just that initial band may not come far enough east. So that area in red, that is our lower confidence. This is either mixed precip or perhaps that leading band of precipitation is not just snow, it's actually mixed precip itself, and that was kind of why we've lowered some of the totals in some spots and raised them in others, trying to blend things together. So I'm going to bring Owen Fritz in now, and Owen, I know you guys are busy up in Sandusky County on the EMA side. Kind of walk us through what you guys are up to.
Yeah, it's always a busy time when we have snowfall, and we kind of want to first, point out, last time we had a little bit of snow and a lot of wind, so it looks like quite the opposite of that this time. And by the when you're talking about EMA and emergency preparedness, our director and has been on phone calls with the National Weather Service, throughout the day, and some of the stuff they've been sharing, pretty much what we're saying. And I hate to say it, but it's going to be there at some point tomorrow. Some people are going to have some hurt feelings and probably say that we were wrong. It's just the way it's going to be. Not every forecast, I can tell you, this one's not going to be 100% correct. Um, it just depends where that transition line really starts
Hmm.
to happen. And one of the things I can, as we're kind of sitting here looking at the map, I can say, at some point we're looking at, if I go down and we kind of look through Seneca County, not in the winter storm warning at this point,
Hmm.
but I have a feeling if anybody that is close to the winter storm warning line of the warnings, I should say, you very well could be added at the fifth or the 12th hour, I should say. You could be added to that, so it's something to keep in mind as we move forward. I work, in Tiffin, and we're um, expecting kind of the same thing as Fremont, that transition line, because it always seems that things will shift just slightly. I can tell you when we always try to pinpoint this on a map. I will bet you that 80% of the times things are going to shift left or right, depending on conditions. So that's what I'm saying. If you are right along that line, we're going to have to keep a close eye on that. One of the things too to keep in mind as you go through tomorrow, this isn't going to be one of the worst snowfalls in history. This is going to be a nice January snow, and I'm not going to say I'm happy about it, but it's going to be a January snow. It's exciting that we're actually going to get some snow. Hopefully, the impacts are going to be minimal as far as travel goes. I mean, it comes with people just got to slow down. And sadly, seeing some of the things that we've seen up here in our county, including that big pileup in the turnpike, that was a lot of wind issues. But slowing down is the number one way that you can reduce, your risk for an accident. And people just got to slow down. A lot of people are impatient, so make sure you get plenty of extra time tomorrow, especially if you're traveling in the early morning. I know Mike was talking about that. If you're traveling in the early morning and the snow's just getting going and the roads are slippery, really need to give yourself some extra time and give yourself some extra space. That's important for the road crews. And, keep those devices charged. Snowfall, or excuse me, power outages. Yeah, we could see some of those. I got some emails today out of the cable company and Spectrum. They're preparing for this storm, and I forgot the name off the top of my head. Was it Cassandra? Was I right? Or they gave it a name, but
Yeah, I'm not sure what name that the Weather Channel
yeah, I
gave
don't
that
know. I
one.
forgot the name, but they gave it a name, and I could be dead wrong, but they gave it a name, and so you definitely could see some issues tomorrow with that. So utilities could be interrupted. So just make sure you keep your cell phones charged up, just in case. Make sure that you just have a little bit of extra precautions. By any stretch, do you need to go raid the bread aisle at Walmart? No. I think you're going to be all right. We can travel, especially a lot of you outside of this, as I call, significant snow area, which would be 4 or higher.
Hmm.
A lot of this lower areas of 4 inches or less, you're going to be fine, and your travel impacts hopefully will be minimal into Thursday. But do keep in mind that in some of these areas like Bowling Green, and I can't say that definitively, but they're already starting to. You mentioned, closings. They're already starting to roll in.
Hmm.
We're starting to see some school closings for tomorrow already in some of the Toledo area schools. Um, so you have to continue to check your local media outlets for that. But we're starting to see those early. They're going to be safe than sorry, sort of thing, which is fine. And the nice thing is we live in this virtual world now where they can do schoolwork at home. Not that it always helps the parents out when you have to cancel, but something to keep in mind as we move forward for tomorrow too. We are starting to see that. I know that the